Hi, and welcome to the second episode of Hero Next Door series on Mess to Mastery. In this episode, I have a very special guest, Brian Linebaugh. Brian is an innovative filmmaker with a unique journey from the world of big data to the realm of cinematic storytelling. As a data architect, Brian has spent years solving complex data challenges for leading companies in the financial and biotech industries. This technical expertise, analytical thinking, and attention to detail now serve as a foundation for his filmmaking endeavors. Through his creative journey, Brian aims to bridge the gap between the analytical and the artistic, producing films that resonate on multiple levels. In 2024, Brian completed his first documentary film, Beyond Words Stories from Tamil Landscapes. This feature length film, entirely in Tamil, celebrates Tamil culture, traditions, arts, and language across India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and Singapore. Beyond Words is currently trying to find a home on a streaming platform. Born and raised in Berkeley, Ryan started his Tamil studies as he entered college at California State University at Chico. He later studied Tamil language and literature under George Hart at the University of California, Berkeley. Now, here's why I thought it is worth showcasing Brian's journey. There's so much to learn from watching and hearing from someone that has been and continues to be on a journey of mastery, especially when they're trying to master something that is so foreign to them. Brian's journey of learning Tamil is so inspiring, and it has helped him gain a lot of transferable skills that have helped him expand on what he is, more than just a data engineer. Now, I want that for our audience as well, which is why our conversation focuses on the resilience, the learning, and how to overcome the blocks that most of us tend to face on our journey to mastery. Welcome, Brian. Thank you for being on our show. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for making time to talk to me and to my audience through this recording. Now, the first thing that caught my attention when I came across your profile was obviously the fact that you developed interest in Tamil. And the reason it is so important is because you don't live anywhere near India. You live in California. And from what I gathered, so you heard some of your classmates speaking Tamil, and that sounded nice to you. Can you elaborate on that?
That's correct. First, Bina, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to share my experiences with Thumber Studies and experiences making this film, Beyond Words. So my journey into Thumber started in my high school year, where over my senior year in high school, where during a lunchtime period, I just coincidentally heard a group of students. These are obviously expats. Expats
Yeah.
had kids and they went to the same high school. And I overheard just them speaking together at lunchtime and just speaking a language that I just didn't recognize. And the way it sounded, it would be, it's to me, it sounded like rap, like American rap, because it had a certain pulse to it. It had a certain life, it had a certain something that was a very staccato. And I
Mm.
don't and so I heard the language. I was like, oh my God, what are you guys speaking? They're like, we speak Tamil. And I was like, oh, okay. And so where's that from? And then sort of that was my first introduction to what it was, but I was just captivated just by the sound. Like if you're a musician and you play maybe acoustic guitar and the first time you hear electric guitar, you're like, oh, okay, I want to start to learn to do that. So that was just a really exciting part about it. I don't remember the exact phrases, obviously, that were being said, but it resembles just a lot of vowels and consonants being thrown together. Like there's a famous Tirukural, right? That's a patuga, pachachan, pachine. It's just that constant vowels and consonants that come together. And it was just really just so captivating.
Out of curiosity, are you generally one of those that learns through sounds? Are you more auditory, would you say?
I think I need both. I need visual and auditory. Yeah, yeah. But I am keyed into to sounds. Yeah.
right?
I-
So it's no surprise that Tamil caught your attention through its the
right.
rhythm, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So
And
why is it
yeah.
that rather than what made you pursue it further? So you like the sound, but it's so foreign to
Mhm.
you, isn't it? Or it was very foreign to you. So why did you choose to pursue it?
To me, it seemed cool. It's kind of uh, you can't really describe sometimes when you find a passion in life why you're attached to it. Is there some linkage to a previous life, or there something just resonates and something just feels right, and it's just there's a comfort in the pursuit, and also a personal challenge. Like, can I learn this? What would it take
Mm,
to learn this? And it's like when you play music and you play music for the first time, it's hard in the beginning, but as you make baby steps and start to make small
mm,
progress towards it, the momentum builds and it sort of feeds itself, right? You get a positive feedback loop and you can take it further and further.
yeah.
So it was just like, why not learn it in some ways, right?
Mm.
So it's,
So
yeah.
what was the feeling you had when you decided that, okay, I'm going to learn this? Do you remember what emotion you went through?
Sort of like a challenge, an inspiration and a challenge. Like, because there's this Bharadiyar poem where he describes Carnatic music, and he
Mm,
writes it in words, ding da da ding da da ding da da, that sort of rhythm, right? And that's what I heard others speak the language. There's a rhythm sort of came through. I'm a jazz trumpet player. Well, I used to be a jazz trumpet player, so I was sort of
right.
attuned to certain rhythms, and it was just that aspect of it. And it actually resembles so much American rap as well. Like, and I'm gonna miss, and I'm gonna miss, and I'm gonna miss, which is the same as ding da da ding da da ding. This is actually from the 1990s group Bone
Right.
Thugs and Harmony, and it's just such an interesting coincidence. It lays over the body of the yard ding da da one to one, the exact rhythms. So there's this musicality that's built in somehow, I think, into the Tamil language. And so that was really, I was inspired and challenged, like, how can I do this? And so I got some books, and the book, when you get the books, you start learning like certain like commands.
Mm,
Come here, sit down. Barangar, or spoken vanga, or
mm,
ukarangar ukaranga. So you have to learn both forms always, right? The formal and the
yes.
spoken. But you're really limited then from a book. Right. Even though I had some friends in the high school, it's just you're not in an environment to learn language. And so that's where the inspiration and the challenge came up. Like, how can I really take this to the next level? So then
Mm,
that's when I said, okay, I'm going to go to Tamil Nadu. I'm going to find a place in Tamil Nadu where I can study Tamil and see how far I can take it. And that's one of the summer vacations during my first year in college. I went to Madurai for the first time. I was able to find a teacher through a network of friends. Like, hey, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? And just kind of was able to find a retired Tamil professor in Madurai, and
mm,
starting working with him. And that's really where you start to learn quickly when you get out of the classroom and into the streets, right? And you mingle with
mm.
people, whether it's in the tea shop or other, the vegetable shop. That's really where things happen, because that immersion is really where it's at when it comes to language study. Yeah.
Would you say that applies to other aspects of your life as well, where there's only so much you can do from the books, right? That you have to go for things. Have you seen that
Yes.
in other areas of your life?
Good question. I would say yes. I would say in my technical career, I've been a data architect and SQL database programmer for over 20 years. And even there, I can remember in the beginning being officially certified in Microsoft database technologies, having as a certificate. I passed the exam, was actually really hard,
Mm,
and it took a lot of effort to pass that exam. And this is the end of the 90s during the dot-com. They had all these programs to like certify yourself in certain technologies, right? And I can remember then getting my first jobs and being thrown into the data trenches,
mm,
supporting all these internet companies. And no, what you learn in theory, what you learn in the classroom is very different than what you have to deal with when you're really really doing the work. And I felt that same. They're very important. The concepts you learn are so critical, but you
Yeah.
really don't learn the meaning of it until you feel it in the field, right? Only then you can really say, oh, okay, that's why I learned about transactions. That's what's meant by deadlocking for in database examples, right? So that's kind of, and then languages too. You have a grammatical framework, or you learn about
Mm,
morphology. You learn about different verb endings, all very critical. But when you hear them for the first time, you're going to hear different dialects. You're going to hear it in different
yeah.
scenarios, and it trips you up because it's very different than what you are used to in the classroom. So the two kind of go hand in hand. You need the theory, but you need the practical. But when it comes
Mm,
to trying to develop a fluency, right, it's really about the immersion aspect of it.
right.
Yeah.
One of the things that really caught my attention when I came across your profile, Brian, was the learning aspect, right? For me,
Which aspect? Sorry.
a learning aspect.
Oh, okay.
A continuous learner always excites me. I'm one of
Mm,
those. I think there's always so much to learn. But I've noticed that sometimes people can lack the patience to see things
mm,
through and not necessarily deepen their learning. So this, what you have articulated is, okay, I get the theory and then I go into doing it because I can't keep waiting to become perfect
right.
and then deploy it. Is there anything you want to add to that?
I think that's correct, and I think that there should be, if you develop any attachments in your pursuits, you should attach to not to the result, but to the means, right? The means are the end, right? If you enjoy the process, if you enjoy the steps to get somewhere, you have to take steps and effort to get somewhere, but you need to enjoy those steps. If you truly enjoy those steps, you make a millimeter of progress every single day. Very, very minor, but you do a daily effort to continue your craft or continue your interest. After a year, after 2 years, those little millimeters every single day of just relentless, never skipping a day adds up to so much. It's just a mountain of progress, even though it was so incremental. And the key to that, I think, is being genuinely passionate about the work, not the result.
Mm,
The work you put in should be the passion, and then you get the results later. Yeah.
that's beautiful. That very much aligns with a number of things that we get taught in. You might have noticed that in the Tamil traditions and culture, we are encouraged to divorce ourselves from the outcome and focus only on the effort because that alone is in your control
Right.
largely. So that seems to align
Yeah.
with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, were there moments when you thought, ah, this is getting really difficult, I'm going to give up? What am I doing? Especially on the streets of Madurai, maybe.
Actually, that first trip to Madurai, I would say, yeah, it was like that. On two levels. One, the pronunciation just wasn't there, and I couldn't really interact with people. They couldn't understand what I was saying. Like in the beginning, I would even a simple phrase like "How are you?" Right?
Mm,
If you say it like in a formal with grammar, "Ningal yeppadi irukkurீர்கள்," right? But
mm,
those days, I would be like "Ningal yeppadi irukkurீங்கள்." See, in the ill, ningal, ningal, ningal,
yeah.
and you have to pull it back to a retroflex position in the mouth, right? And so it took sitting down and just being like ill, then ir, ir. You have to like work that out. That takes a long time, and that's very hard. And so at the time, I felt like my trip to India would be a waste because I couldn't interact with anybody.
Mm,
But then I was kind of observant and seeing, okay, if I want to interact with people, how else could I? I noticed people talk with gestures a lot in body language, and there's
yes.
actually a whole grammar in Tamil with
Yes.
body language. You could ask someone to come, like you could ask someone to come like
Yeah.
this. You could raise your fist like this, which means a question.
Yes.
You can pivot your hand, which means I don't know, or there's
Yeah.
just so much in the Tamil gestures that you can communicate. It's actually really fun to go around not using words and actually be able to have a real conversation just through gestures. So that was kind of fun. Um, but yeah, coming back to wanting to quit, yeah, for sure. It was just there are many moments, but then you it comes back again to the enjoyment of the process. If you enjoy
Mm.
the incremental work that you're trying to do that on a given day, if you truly enjoy that work, then you can get through. You can persevere. Yeah.
So what did you do to get your focus back on enjoying it? when it was getting difficult to go through it? Was there anything practical that you did?
Mhm,
What would you say someone can do to
mhm.
practice that? Because they may be going through a journey of
Sure.
learning, which is difficult,
Right.
and they want to give up. What would you say to them?
I think the key would be to break it down. You break it down to the problems or whatever, however you're blocked. You try to break it down to the components, and you slow down. So in my case, I couldn't say. In Tamil, there's three L's, right? In
Mm,
English we have one. In Tamil, we have three. So it really, literally meant sitting down in a room, sometimes with my teacher, sometimes by myself, and just saying la la li, and then switching to the next one, la la li, and then the third one way in the back of the mouth, the famous one from Tamar, and actually is in the
yeah,
word Tamar, ra
yeah.
ra ri. You have to like, and it's just breaking down the problem to the smallest component and going slowly. Then okay, then you can sort out where the problem is, and then you can pick up from there. So similarly, other domains, not just language learning, would probably be, I think, quite similar. Even in programming, debugging, you add a breakpoint, you find out where the problem is, and you slow it down, and you find out, and you break it down to a smaller problem to sort it out. So I think there's a lot of parallels across. Yeah,
Mm. So what I'm hearing is if we keep our sight on, oh, I want to speak fluently, or I want to do this or that, and whatever the outcome is, then that is when the inability to do it just yet can be quite overwhelming. Instead of we just focus on, no, I just need to get this la and la correct. That's all I need to focus on. So breaking
yeah,
down helps. I think that's a great advice that'll help people pursue um, learning anything for that matter.
correct.
I'm also curious to know, um, because you're in California, or you're still in California, aren't you?
Actually, we're in Florida.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was born and raised in California. Did all my
Right.
studies in California, all my college in California.
Right.
But during the COVID time, a lot of companies let people be remote, and so we found our way to Florida during the COVID time,
Oh, well,
and
very
so we're
nice.
still here. We're still here.
So, did you face criticism among your, your circle, maybe your either your close circle or your extended circle, about your
Yeah,
choice? Because I think you've spent quite a few summers in Madurai, didn't you, eventually?
I did about three, and I also spent
Mm,
2 summers in Malaysia and Singapore because I was very interested in the spoken languages, and I wanted to learn regional dialects.
mm,
And which was a big part of what we highlighted in the documentary film Beyond Words was the regional dialects. We captured performing arts from different regions, so we got dance and song from different places, and we got the participants to talk about their art forms in the local dialect. So the film has a layered delivery of the stories in dialect. So that's a very interesting aspect. Um, so I got off the question, the point on the question again. It was
I was curious to
sorry.
know if, how did you overcome any sort of criticism, right? Because only we know what we want
Right,
to.
right,
Others don't necessarily see the picture, what
right.
we have created and
Yeah,
what ambition we have for ourselves. So, how did you go through that?
yeah, yeah. Definitely a lot of critics from my family, from my friends, kind of like not giving a word of caution, like you're pursuing, a liberal arts endeavor that's going to take you nowhere. Where's the
Mm,
practicality of it, right? So definitely, I faced that, um, and I wasn't in a position of privilege where I could, not worry about my future,
mm,
right? So it wasn't like that case where I could not do a hard science and I'll still be okay, or
mm,
it wasn't anything like that. But I always felt that if you are excited about a topic or any domain and you're passionate about it and you really give yourself to it, the universe will give back to you some avenue, some pathway. And the same, and that's not for me. Actually, to be honest, in high school I was not the best student, right? But as I entered college and as I continued my summer studies, being so passionate about a subject and you learn about it, just cascades to all aspects of your life. It literally, and language in particular, changes the way you think.
Mm.
And I think and when I pivoted to go into technology, I really believe that the background in human languages, studying human grammar, and just being obsessed at a very nuanced level of how does the language work? Why does it sound this way in Jaffna, Sri Lanka? Why are they speaking this way? Why are they speaking this way in Malaysia? Going to that low level, I think, prepared me for a 20-year career doing database programming. I think without that language, the language, the background in languages, I could never have done software. So it was completely a true one-to-one liftover into another domain because I had the analytical tool set that I would need. I didn't acquire it in computer science courses. I acquired it through language study, but it gave me everything I needed to run with a career in software. So I think for the critics at the time, the very beginning, I mean, it's hard to predict that path, but I think it speaks to the larger notion of learning. If you can learn any one thing, you can learn something else. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of carryover between verticals and between domains.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's such a beautiful point you've made. I think learning itself is a transferable skill, I suppose. And once you can show to
yeah,
yourself that you can learn something so deeply, and especially you have learned something that's so foreign to you, to such a depth, then there's nothing else that you can't learn, isn't it? You can just apply that process
right.
over and over.
And it's something that gives you a lot of confidence, right? So coming out of high school with I should be generous to myself with maybe not the best grades or maybe substandard grades out of high school and maybe and therefore not so much confidence, right? Then learning something like Thumber, which people in some ways, some of my friends like, oh, you're never going to learn that. That's going to be too hard for you. You can't do that. And you're sort of faced with that challenge and sort of a gaze of doubt. And then
Yeah.
when you get past that, then the world opens up and you have confidence in yourself saying, I've already done that. So what else can I do now? And so I think it's really good.
Do you
Yeah.
remember doing anything specific to keep all that noise out and stay focused?
I don't know if I did anything specific. That aspect may just be maybe I think I innately I'm kind of stubborn. So I think I've already made up my mind I'm going to do this. And so once I said I'm going to learn this language, I'm going to take the steps it needs to learn Thumber. The rest is noise, but I keep it in background noise, for better or for worse. So in
Mm.
this case, it was for better. So I mean, you always try to listen to others along the way, but at the same time, they may not know where you are, they may not know where your heart is, and they may not know your trajectory. So you always have to take other criticism and feedback with a little grain of salt. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just think I didn't do anything specific. I decided I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going. That's it.
Mm.
It's just go for it. Yeah.
And are you still that way, would you say? Now that it's worked as well?
I think in any endeavor, yeah, I think it's just that I have a sort of a stubbornness sort of
Yeah.
under my skin, and that kind of I think comes out in different ways. Yeah,
And it is necessary, isn't it? That level of conviction is needed. No, I'm going to do this. Uh,
yeah. I think you have to believe in yourself, and
yeah.
um, that doesn't mean to completely shut out. Like maybe you can be wrong, and you may be right. You do need to take input from others along the way, but you can't lose that. As you said, the conviction is the key word, I think, and so that conviction you really need to bring that forward, and that kind of carries you through all the challenges that you're going to face.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, when we're on the topic of this conviction and being able to pursue despite criticism and all that, are there things that you learned in your journey, especially when pursuing Thamr, that helped you build or augment your resilience and strengthen your character, perhaps? And
mm, question. Maybe learning patience, adding to my stubbornness would be adding patience, because
Mm,
Tamil is not easy. I'm still learning the language, because there was like bursts of study where I studied for 1-2 years, and then
mm,
because of my database and software career, I wouldn't touch it for a year or two. There's actually
mm.
there were times when I couldn't study it, and then I would actually lose skills and
Yeah.
start forgetting things that I already learned. And so it was kind of like a wave, my trajectory, and so this wave is continuing. I'm still trying to learn, but along that, the patience is something that I think I've picked up, and that's something that's been a positive change in me, is to learn the patience that if I want to speak near native competency, it's going to take me a long time. And so that you got to be patient, and it's not going to come overnight, and it's not going to be easy. And I think learning patience has been a good trait that I've sort of picked up along the way. Yeah.
It's definitely a good trait to have because you need it in other aspects of life as well. Yeah. Were there other unexpected lessons, like surprises that you had along the journey?
Other surprises. I think this comes out in the film Beyond Words, as well. When we talked to all the participants, is I was surprised, in Asia in general, whether it's Singapore, Malaysia, India, but particularly Tamil Nadu, just the sense of a wider community and a sense of a wider family, and the sense of connectedness to your neighbor, I
Mm,
think is really sort of special and heartwarming. Like for example, we approached, for the film, we didn't really have any context to try to find participants to interview for the documentary film. So we randomly went into remote villages and just started asking people, hey, will you participate in our film? We're doing a film about this. Can you speak about this for 10 minutes? Can we interview you? We talked to 200 people, 200 strangers said yes across the board. Because there's this helping tendency that seems to come through, in Tamil Nadu. I haven't been too many other places in India, but I think in India, there's a pan-Indian trait of just being helpful and being nice, and that was surprising to me. The flip side is, I'm not saying in U.S. is that it's the inverse. It's not the inverse, but there's a certain notion of individuality and separatism amongst individuals, right? In the United States, it may be common. You may not know your immediate neighbors, or you may not move very closely with your immediate neighbors. But in India, you're going to find very quickly that you're going to know a lot more about your neighbors in India than you
yes,
will. And so I think that notion of a sort of like a pseudo family,
yes.
and I thought that was this just really special and kind of nice. And that was the one thing that surprised me. Yeah.
And how far were you able to take that away and make it part of you? Were you able to be that in when you went back to your home?
To a certain extent, maybe, but I think, like as I say, when in Rome, right? Because you don't want to cross. You may not want to cross certain social norms.
Yeah.
If I pick up a habit from Tamil Nadu, I may not want to. Like for example, in Tamil Nadu, you very frequently ask about your friends' parents.
Yeah.
How's your mother doing? How's your father doing? And these questions about their family, these kind of questions to my American friends. I mean, there's always a concern, and but there's generally less, questioning about your friends' extended family. And if I
Yes.
kept on if I kept on that line of questioning, my friends would be like, what's going on here? It's just different. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in Tamil Nadu, it's not even uncommon for us to call the parents of our friends also Appa and Amma, mom and dad. It's quite common
Yeah.
to refer to them as well. Especially Amma is
Yeah.
a
So
very
it's,
common.
it's yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
is
Amma
Amma.
for the exact. It speaks to this sort of like pseudo family,
Yes.
sense, and the sense of community that's really connected, whether it's by language or by culture or by region. It's there. You can definitely feel that in the fabric of the community. There's definitely this notion of family. I think that's very strong. Yeah.
Maybe I'm being cheeky here and asking you was there anything that shocked you? Or do I, oh my God, why?
Um, maybe the sometimes the social filters compared to the United States, so some of the social filters might be thinner
Mm.
in Tamil Nadu. For example, when you just meet somebody for the first time in US, I can't say right away. I can't say, so where do you work or what's your salary? But whereas in India, like I can meet someone for the first time and immediately they're probably expecting me to ask them, oh, so where are you working? Oh, okay. Does that pay well? It's open. Maybe it's just different. Maybe. So it's just maybe it's not really a social filter. It's just that different expectations and different norms, I think.
I think the size of the filter is the sieve is coarser and finer in some places, I think.
Right. Right.
That's
True.
definitely an interesting observation.
Mm, mm,
So your
mm.
documentary called Beyond Words, focusing on Tamil culture and dialects, what motivated you to create that? Why that?
Yeah. Originally, I made it together with my wife, and the two of us. What we wanted to do was we wanted to make a dialect movie. We thought a movie about Tamil dialects from India, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Malaysia would just be interesting. And we also thought and that there was a sort of a trend of Tamil potentially fading or waning away in certain areas. Because I can remember going to Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, even Chennai, different places where there's like this attitude amongst some where they would say, like, "Yannick Tamarteriad." I don't know Tamil. They know very well, but they put on this air of
Yeah.
Yannick Tamarteriad, right? They know they absolutely can speak it perfectly, but there's like this weird thing that some people put on, and their kids are speaking English with their parents, and so we thought there's maybe something here that needs to be addressed. That was sort of like the original idea that we can maybe shine a light on. Hey, in urban areas or different cities, maybe this is going to be a problem. Maybe we should, raise awareness about how special spoken Tamil is.
Mm.
But we started down that path, and then we very quickly found out the state of Tamil is very strong. You can go all over Tamil Nadu. Tamil is not fading. It's totally fine. So that was one thing. So as we adjusted along the way, and so we said, okay, well, since we're here, and so why don't we do more in this documentary? Why don't we profile all of the local arts and the performing arts and the music from the region? So in northern Tamil Nadu, we found that Dedukuttu was more popular.
Mm.
If you go to the southernmost, in the middle of the region, like Tanjavur, in that area,
Mm.
you have Bombalatam. Bombalatam is more
Mm.
popular in that area. These arts could be found everywhere in Tamil Nadu, but they seem to have centralization in different areas. Now you go further south, you have the Dolpave Kuttu, the shadow puppetry
Mm.
is popular down in Kanyakumari, and just north of that in Nelle in Penpandi, you have Villapatte. Villapatte is more
Mm.
popular in that area than others, and so we went around by car finding artists to talk about their art forms and have them tell us about it in their local dialect. So we still were obsessed with like bringing language
Right.
and getting and capturing the how unique each region speaks, but then tell a
Mm.
story about the arts and shine a light on the arts and just how beautiful they are. And so that's how the movie came to be about more about performance arts than dialects. Yeah.
So what next? What do you have in mind for your next steps? And
Next steps. Well, we're on the sort of on the film festival circuit right now. The Beyond Words Stories from Tamil Landscapes. The documentary has been selected at Jaipur International Film Festival. So that was actually our global premiere. That was shown. That was shown back in January. And this month we've been accepted to Montreal South Asian Film Festival. So that's our second. And so hopefully for the rest of this year, we'll be selected in other film festivals too. Beyond that, we would love to get the most eyes on this project as possible. We would love to get onto a streaming platform just to bring it to everybody, because we think the content is very compelling. It's very special content, and you get to hear in one film. You get to see so many arts and hear so many different dialects. It's really unique, and we would like to bring it to everybody. Yeah.
what do you think would be the lasting image or message that your audience will get, you reckon, after watching
Mm.
this?
I think what comes through in every interview, and we touched on this when we talked like Tamil Nadu or South Asian culture in general, is this notion of a pseudo family, and I think you'll get that sense of kindness, that sense of I want to help you,
Mm,
that helping tendency really underscores every interview. You can see how genuine the people are about sharing their life and wanting to contribute to this project, and that really comes through. So I think that's one of the things that will be taken, and that yeah, that's one of the messages. And secondarily, we wanted to show some of the artists do raise the fact that their art, the Bombalatam for one, is not as popular as it used to be, and same with
mm,
shadow puppetry. So we do want to shine a light on that and say, hey, maybe these performance arts, we should maybe encourage more people to go into them, or if you have a public event, maybe you can hire a local puppeteer to come in and do a show, and just to
mm,
keep these arts going, maybe arrange a terikutu performance somewhere just to keep this going, because in 100 years will all these art forms be there as they are now? I mean, they've survived hundreds of years already, but
yeah,
things are changing very quickly now.
yes.
And the artists of today have said, even during their lifetime, they did make comments that they have seen things slowly diminish. So I think there is something there that deserves some attention, and that also comes through in the film. Yeah.
I'm bombarded with so many thoughts in what you said. Maybe I should unpack
Mm.
one by one. So, if I'm not wrong, I think in one interview you had mentioned about how when you were shooting and there was an old lady who wasn't necessarily making ends meet, but was constantly offering you food and water. Am I right? Did I pick that up from one of your?
Yes. Yeah.
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 And when I
That's
heard
absolutely
that,
correct. Hmm.
when I heard that, I was I got emotional, right?
Yeah.
Because that is the sort of culture that I come from as well. Even thinking about it now makes me emotional. And I can see why you would say Beyond Words will probably
Yeah.
leave that impression in people. That might be the bell that rings in
Yes.
one. I think that's a
Yes.
great message to deliver at this day and age. And the other thing that you said, so I'm trying to retrack my thoughts there. So from instead of the language dying, you seem to have moved to dying art forms so that we can
Correct.
revive them. Why do you think it is important to preserve these art forms?
So the art forms, like language, the arts are also carriers of culture, right? So the language codifies culture, but so do the arts, right? When someone performs Terukutu, they're telling stories.
Mm,
From Ramayanam, for example, there'll be a
mm,
story that's being told. And similarly with the puppetry, or the shadow puppetry, the Tolpave Kutu in down in Kanyakumari, they're telling stories, ancient stories, but it preserves it. And so if these art forms don't fade away, these stories are very alive. You don't need to go read the texts and read the story. You can just enjoy it in a dramatic format. It really brings these stories to life. So I think that's really an important aspect of why the arts should not fade away, is because they carry so much history and so much culture with them. Yeah.
that's beautiful. Um, so one other aspect that I noticed before we wrap up, I think it's important for you to give this message to the audience. You are not short of courage at all because you obviously had the courage to learn a foreign language in the very same country where it's spoken. And you are now looking to switch again, if not complete switch. You're into filmmaking as well, and you have ambitions in that as well. So the Beyond Words is not the only thing that is going to come from you, is what I take. Um, it is not easy to switch, and that takes a lot of courage, and cognitive capacity as well. How, when I see people struggling, like, there are jobs that people are into and they don't necessarily like it, but pivoting is not necessarily their first choice because it is so daunting. If you can speak to those audience, right, who are, they should probably pivot, but they're not doing it, what would you say to them? What helped you? What can help them?
Good question. Um, you have to move and pivot in digestible chunks. It has to be baby steps. And so the aggregate, like over a year, like you say, in 1 year, I want to become, um, let's say, I want to become a real estate agent.
Mm,
Just just pulling that out as a career. Um, Thinking about everything you need to do at one time is too hard. You have to break it down to stages and just take incremental steps. And that daily incremental effort after a year will take you where you want to go. And I think that's really the key. Is it has to be your short term plan should be very digestible, and you have to make it enjoyable. Because if you enjoy that short term process, that carries you all the way through the year, and then you can get to where you need to go. I think that's the way I would, yeah, try to tackle that type of problem. That's basically what I did with trying to all the video editing, all the sound design, everything for Beyond Words, we did ourselves. We didn't subcontract out to anybody. Before this film, I've never even made a YouTube video before. And it's just about taking baby steps. And YouTube was extremely helpful in terms of finding videos and teaching like how you can do this cut or get this sort of effect. And this is maybe what you consider for sound design. So I picked up tips from a lot of people who are sharing their information, but you have to do it in very small incremental ways. And that worked. And it took, a good 4, 5, 6 months of trial and error before I could get a good edit on some of the interviews. But there's
mm,
also a joy in doing that and not just simply, subcontracting that out to somebody and then getting it delivered back. And then it might come back good, but then now you want to tweak something. Now what do? Oh, you got to go back out, find someone, and you're sort of dependent, and you're not really freed up to do and be creative and do what you want to do. So I think
mm.
just going slow and being very tangible just frees up so much. It's enjoyable, and it gives you the freedom because you have control over where you want to take what you're working on. Yeah.
In this, we've talked for 45 minutes. I can't believe where the time has gone, really. But what I have picked up from you is you are hardcore in the moment. So today, this is what I need to learn, and that's what I will. And I think that is an extremely powerful way to be, because that's all you have in control, right? And rather
Right.
than overwhelming ourselves with
Yes.
the
Yes.
mountain, just this.
Right.
And I also noticed that you are very much into enjoying the process. There is a
Mhm.
journey
Yes.
that jumped out time and time again
Mhm.
while I heard you, which is again something that maybe at this day and age people are not tuned into, because the outcome seems so glamorous, right? Everyone wants to
Right.
show what they have created rather than the process of creating itself. Um,
Right.
I think
Right.
the conversation with you has
Mm.
been a reminder again that this is really important. And for genuine success and real learning, we have to have that mindset. The journey is more
Yeah.
important than the
Yeah.
destination.
I think so. That the longer destination and your vision and your goal is always on the horizon, but you're never there.
Yeah,
You're always in the short term. You're always in that short term cycle, which is okay because that's where the work happens and that's where the happiness happens. And as long as you find that joy in that process, you will get there.
yeah,
You know, and even as you get very close to that goal, you sometimes reconstruct it and build on top of it as well because you made so much
yes.
progress and you're like, oh, I've attained this. Now I want to go here, and so it's sort of to change it and actually grows, right? Um, but in terms of the day to day and what's really tangible, you're always operating in the short term. Yeah.
That reminds me of the journey of mastery, right? There's no end to mastery at all.
Right.
just keep going on and on and on. But if you forget this process, then
Yeah,
you're not on the journey at all. Um,
right.
that's beautiful. I absolutely enjoyed talking to you and understanding your thought process and the how you overcame your challenges. Pleasure talking to you. Do you want to add anything before we wrap up, Brian? Was there anything that you
No,
wanted to say that I didn't ask?
no, I enjoyed the questions very much. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you so much for having me on your program. These are fun topics to talk about, and it's good to also go back and reflect on the process as well. And I'm happy to share what I've gone through from the language learning standpoint. And thank you for the opportunity. I enjoyed it very much. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Uh,